Hello everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Ringside Radio. It's the Ringside Radio 2013 End of the Year Awards. You're here with Grim Chorizo,
Sloppy Joe,
Katrina Cena,
and Frank the Tank.
Yeah, we got this guy back. Yeah, he's back in state. So, this is a new thing we're gonna do. So, it could go terrible, but I think it'll be okay. We've got a lot of nominees and a lot of categories to get through. So, let's just get to it. Our first category is Best Pay-Per-View of the Year. WWE puts on 12 pay-per-views a year. Some of them great, some of them not so great. But we narrowed it down to 4 of what we think were all big hits. So here are the nominees. Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, Payback, and WrestleMania. And the winner is Payback. Yeah. So they were all great pay-per-views, wouldn't you say?
Yep.
We watched all of them, but there was just something about Payback that stood out. It was a solid card. Everything about it was great. You had the double turn from Ziggler and Del Rio, Cena and Ryback in 3 Stages of Hell, the return of CM Punk to his hometown against Jericho of all people, Curtis Axel winning the title on Father's Day, AJ and Caitlyn putting on one of the best Divas matches in a long time. So we just felt it was the best pay-per-view of the year.
Well, and one of the big things from that pay-per-view, I think, is it was in Chicago, and anytime there's a show in Chicago, you know the crowd is going to be ready to go, and they're going to bring it from the first match till the very end, and they definitely delivered. It was a fantastic show.
Definitely.
and the next category is Debut of the Year. We have the nominees are Fandango, The Wyatt Family, Xavier Woods, Curtis Axel, and Los Matadores. And the winner is The Wyatt Family. And we chose them because we just thought that out of all the people that had debuted this year, they had the biggest impact out of everyone who came, so...
It was a memorable debut. They have been showing the vignettes for months in advance, and them to finally show up and just decimate Kane. To finally see them on TV, it was just, it was very memorable. As far as Bray Wyatt's debut match, it was not as memorable, but the debut of them actually showing up, I think, was definitely a big moment in 2013.
Who did he face in his debut match? I can't even remember.
It was against Kane in a Ring of Fire match.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And it just was not what it could have been, but them showing up was great. I would like to say, as far as debuts, that Fandango probably had the biggest debut match, it being at WrestleMania against Chris Jericho and winning.
Yes.
But definitely. As far as, I think just the Wyatt family's arrival was just great.
Well, I think it was very highly anticipated, especially with the vignettes, as you talked about earlier. They were very eerie. They just kind of made you uncomfortable, and it made you wonder, what these guys were going to bring to the table. And I know, especially Grim you had seen a lot of, or at least some of their stuff on NXT.
Yeah.
So you knew they were a force to be reckoned with there. So it was, it was highly anticipated moment, waiting for their arrival to see what they would bring to the table in WWE, I think. Okay, our next category is the most cringe-worthy moment of the year. And here are our nominees. We have Paul Heyman's proposal to Ryback, JBL, Michael Cole, and Jerry Lawler taking selfies on Raw, 3MB, Santino, Hornswoggle, and the Great Khali's snake charming segment, and Randy Orton forgetting his line during a promo. All very cringe-worthy. But
say something stupid.
Our winner is Paul Heyman's proposal to Ryback. And I just recall all of us, or at least most of us, were watching this and just it was so uncomfortable. It was just I think we described it as awkward, and it was just so weird, and I just remember just cringing. I mean,
Yes.
it was terrible.
The fact that it was Paul Heyman too, and Ryback, just it was, oh gosh,
and the whole kissing Ryback.
that was just.
No.
Luckily, I did not see this one, so
You're actually lucky in that regard because it was awkward, and the crowd actually chanted, "This is awkward."
Yes.
That alone makes it a win.
Definitely makes it the most cringeworthy moment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
our next category is Tag Team of the Year. And the nominees are Cody Rhodes and Goldust, The Usos, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, The Real Americans, and finally, Team Hell No. And the winners are Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. We've always been big fans of The Shield from day one, I would say. So this was a pretty easy pick from our standpoint. And then you have Tyler Black / Seth Rollins, who is one of Katrina's guys. So
Yes.
there's no doubt why we picked them. Plus, you have the spear. It's kind of
Definitely, they just stood above the rest because of their impact long term. The Rhodes definitely making a huge impact now, but just long term, Rollins and Reigns as a tag team just worked very well. Team Hell No definitely needed to be included because of their not just their entertaining, hilarious segments, but their ability to be a odd tag team just seemed to be a big part of 2013, be it the first half.
And it really brought the credit back to the tag team division. So.
Yeah.
Well, and sorry, there's some of my guys, but the Usos have really
Yes.
done some fantastic things this year. And really the Real Americans have too. They've
yeah.
definitely gotten over with the crowd.
Yes.
Both of those teams. So we definitely had some good choices on here. It maybe wasn't necessarily the easiest pick, but with Rollins and Reigns, having such a dominant title reign too for a part of 2013.
Yep.
Well, I think that's what really stood out to me was that they had the titles for so long, and then now Cody Rhodes and Goldust have them, and the Usos are great, and I'm not a huge fan of the Real Americans, but neither of them have had the titles yet.
Right.
So
Yeah. So I guess we'll have to see who the tag team of 2014 could be, because Real Americans are starting to get some momentum now.
Yep.
But let's move on to our next category, the most improved of the year. Here are the nominees. Fandango, Brie Bella, Biggie Langston, and Damian Sandow. And the winner is Damian Sandow. So all the people here on this list obviously improved a lot to our standpoint. They just caught our eye like, wow, there's definite improvement here. Brie Bella really definitely has been improving. Actually seems like she wants to be better, which I think is great. But the fact, just Damian Sandow, especially around when he turned on Cody at Money in the Bank, just really, there was a definite notice of difference from his in-ring ability, and his just his character seemed to evolve. Definitely. So.
Well, and his match with Cena when he cashed in was
Yes.
incredible. So
Yeah.
that really set him above everyone else too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Definitely was a banner year for Sandow, and even though his cash-in was not successful, he definitely proved himself worthy of carrying the briefcase, and definitely eventually being a world champion, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the next category is
Okay.
most shocking moment of the year. Mark Henry's retirement speech. Triple H turns on Daniel Bryan. Damian Sandow wins Money in the Bank. And Dolph Ziggler and the Alberto Del Rio double turn. And the winner is Mark Henry's retirement speech. We chose this just because it literally shocked all of us. We thought he was really going to retire. He brought his kids in. He left his boots on the stage, and then he
legitimately cried on
then,
TV.
Yeah, and then
Not like Big Show cried, like legit.
Yeah.
Do you think Show taught him just crying lessons backstage?
Could be.
And then he just delivered that World's Strongest Slam to Cena, and everybody's mind was blown. Everybody thought he was really retiring. So
It was definitely shocking. I was actually in tears because Mark Henry, he may not have been my favorite all these years, but he's been around a long time, and so just to see that and him like pouring his heart out, it just. I believed every second of it. I bought every second of it. And I remember one of my indie guys, Christian Rose, actually tweeted saying that he bought it hook, line, and sinker. And I remember thinking, anybody who says they didn't buy it probably wasn't being honest.
Yep.
It seemed so legitimate, so real.
Definitely. It was, I thought for sure it's like, man, that he's retiring. I didn't even think about that it was an angle, but man, although all the nominees there, the double turn, that was that I remember being like, wait, what just happened? But this retirement thing, wow, it was. Mark Henry deserves an Oscar for that that acting there.
Yeah, definitely.
It's going to kind of ruin other retirements though, because then you're going to be like, is this an angle?
Is this guy for real?
Is he really retiring?
When
and
he
it's
actually retires.
Yeah, it's going to be like, wait, is this real or not real now? Like,
And the thing that got me is I saw results online because I watched it late, and I still was convinced that he was going to retire watching it.
Right, so you knew better, but it was still convincing.
Yeah, and I was still convinced. I'm like, okay, that was just an old picture or something. But nope.
Yeah.
And how about, I think he put his boots on the stage. I just remember being like, whew.
This is going to be a tough
Mark
one.
Henry.
Yeah. Yep.
And the crowd was even behind him. They were chanting thank you, and so yeah, he really shocked everybody.
I think so too, definitely. All right, let's go ahead and bring our next category in. This is the NXT Superstar of the Year. And of course, NXT is something that really has become more mainstream this year. You can kind of watch it. Is it every Wednesday online? And it's really just shows you what these up and coming stars can do, and kind of shows you the future of WWE. Gives you a glimpse into that. So our nominees for NXT Superstar of the Year are Bo Dallas, Sami Zayn, Adrian Neville, and Corey Graves. And our winner is Sami Zayn. Now, Sami Zayn is somebody that I actually, being a Ring of Honor fan, I saw him as El Generico before. And that's a bit of a breaking of the fourth wall, but at this point I don't really care. It's our podcast and we can say what we want. But no, I just I remember seeing him in ROH, just, matches. I never actually saw him in person, but just thinking, wow, this guy is phenomenal. And when I heard he got signed by WWE and they were taking the mask off of him, I was like, oh my goodness, they can't do that. He's El Generico. That's who he is. But it's really not. He's not defined by that, because he has definitely proven his worth in NXT. He's had some of the most phenomenal matches that I've seen there or anywhere else. Not to take away from anybody else, but he's so talented. He's very athletic. He's definitely got what it takes, and I can't wait to see what they do with him when he's on the main roster.
Yep. He, I know I actually was at a game store, and there was a guy who was, I didn't know who he was, but he saw my wrestling shirt, and we ended up getting into a conversation. It was right around the time Sami Zayn was going to debut, and the guy was just like, oh, I just hope they don't ruin him taking off his mask and everything, but they didn't. He's perfectly fine, and he's making a legacy already in NXT. So big things to come from him.
all right, our next category is Promo of the Year. Our first nominee is AJ Lee, Pipe Bombshell.
I have saved your Divas division. I have shattered glass ceilings. I have broken down doors. I earned this championship. And no matter how many red carpets you guys want to walk in your $4,000 ridiculous heels, you will never be able to lace up my Chuck Taylors.
CM Punk, pre-Royal Rumble.
It doesn't matter if you're the best wrestler. It doesn't matter if you're the best talker. It doesn't matter if you're the best overall performer. It doesn't matter if you make the two clowns sitting to my left on commentary look like amateur hour. There is a glass ceiling and nobody is allowed to break it. That's the simple story of this place.
John Cena and Daniel Bryan, pre-SummerSlam.
I think you are a parody of wrestling.
I am proud of what I've done here. I am proud of who I am, and I am proud of what I've become.
How could you understand the hunger, understand the desire that I have for holding that WWE Championship just once?
And CM Punk and Paul Heyman on Raw, July 22nd.
Show me a hero, and I'll show you a coward that ran out of options, or a fool who is just too stupid to stay down. So what are you, Punk? Are you a coward or are you a fool?
And the winner is John Cena and Daniel Bryan. At least for me, this promo was one of the best I've ever seen. Both of them went back and forth, and the only thing we kept wondering was, why is Miz on the TV? But Daniel Bryan had passion beyond compare, and then John Cena came right back with even more passion and firing back at what Daniel Bryan said at him, because Daniel Bryan said he didn't have passion for the wrestling part. John Cena said, yes, I did, and proved that he did, and then they just went back and forth and ended with a slap, and it was just all around great.
Yeah. It was. I remember, like, legitimately getting like goosebumps from the the passion coming from both. Like, I think that was one of the first times you really got to see Daniel Bryan get to come out like that, because, my gosh, it was his biggest, like he said, biggest match of his life, and he was just not holding back. And then Cena bringing up, like you said, but just as much passion, just as much. It built the match up so much, and it will be remembered by far. And of course, The Miz should have just kind of walked out of there. Because,
And then, he should have realized he had nothing significant to say compared to what was actually going on.
Yeah.
And then I think it also, like, kind of got at me when John Cena talked about his Make-A-Wish and how he was thanked by this dad about how he serves as, like, for this little kid fighting. And I've been through that myself and looked up to wrestlers myself and fought harder because I wanted to be like them. So it kind of stuck at me, and, like, his passion through that really showed, and I really liked it.
Yep. And those being my two favorite guys, like, I just remember being, like, in an emotional battle when it was going on, because, you know, Brian was talking, I'm like, how dare you say my John doesn't have passion?
Yeah.
And then Cena's saying something about, hey, you need to get your facts straight and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, hey, don't talk to Brian like that. I'm just like, what do I do?
You don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah, exactly. But so I just remember being very conflicted, but just
You don't
being
say that.
completely captivated by what they were saying, because it was such an impassioned thing from both of them. And like you said, just having chills, like goosebumps, as they were talking about different things. It just really is something that really connected with I think everybody on an emotional level.
And I just remember being so engrossed into that promo that I dropped everything that I was doing and just could not keep my eyes off of it.
Yep. I know, they're so, how can you not keep your eyes off of them?
Just the intensity of it.
That beard, it's so big.
Miz, get off TV.
Miz, why are you there? But we will move on now to our next category. This is the grossest moment of the year. So here are our nominees, and I'd like to say some of these things you might not have known happened, but they did. Number 1, starting off with a bang here, CM Punk shits himself. Triple H pisses himself. Titus O'Neil pukes on SmackDown. And Total Divas exists. Although all of those are terribly gross, just utterly disgusting, and should not be seen by human eyes and put on live TV, the grossest moment in our opinion is CM Punk crapping his pants on live, not live, it was SmackDown, but television.
It's live.
Oh, yeah.
Dean Ambrose's face.
So, yeah, why don't we address some of these? Because I don't know if... okay, so CM Punk wrestled Dean Ambrose back a few weeks ago, and he actually... pooped his pants, his tights that he was wearing, and I didn't know it was true until there's a part where he's down on the mat and he's like, he's on his butt and he gets back up and you can actually see it in the ring. You can see
on
it.
the canvas.
And it's just funny because after you knew what happened, every time you see Ambrose's face, you're just like, he has got to be just so disgusted. And Punk, oh my God, you just
and he Dean Ambrose looked like he was gonna puke.
Yeah.
He was like, oh gosh.
Well, and another thing is the fact that the match was amazing, and it was probably 15-minute match. They went through a whole match with crap on the ground, but.
And didn't you say at one point CM Punk suplexed Ambrose onto
onto the poop?
Yeah,
because he went for the Macho Man elbow, and he had to lay somewhere. Of course, I think maybe Punk was just doing it to. Hey, I pooped. You're gonna lay in it, and then he suplexed him right into it. Either way, and just in case you don't know what I'm talking about, Triple H pissing himself. But it was when he came back to attack Brock Lesnar. There was a point you can notice he's wearing jeans, and he has a very large wet spot. And apparently, in an interview, he addressed it, saying, "I'll always make sure to go to the bathroom before I go out for a." Out for a segment.
Oh,
so that happened. I can't believe that in 2013 we had somebody crapping themselves and peeing themselves right next to each other. But thank you, both of you, for those great moments. You'll be remembered.
And just to add one thing to the Punk thing, nobody would have known about Punk pooping himself if he didn't acknowledge it himself.
True.
He tweeted it himself saying, "This poop just got real." Or something.
He said, "This poop ain't
funny.
This poop ain't fun anymore."
Yeah.
And then it was said later that he crapped himself.
So it would have never been known unless he acknowledged it himself.
Ambrose is so scary, he makes people poop themselves.
I gotta say, our honorable mention for this category, though, would probably go to the fact that Total Divas exists on television.
Oh.
I have a confession. That's actually my favorite show.
Oh, shut up.
Leave.
It's awful. It's terrible. And
Just kidding. No one take that seriously. I'm being sarcastic.
He's lying.
I'm not lying.
Anyways, on to our next category. The next category is Faction of the Year. And our nominees are the Wyatt Family, 3MB, The Authority, the Paul Heyman Guys, and The Shield. And the winner is The Shield.
Boom.
And we chose them just because of how big of an impact they've had all year. They've main evented so many matches. They've had so many incredible matches, and they've really honestly almost done it all in a year span. So they just had the biggest impact of everyone, all the factions this year. So
Yep. We've got some impressive factions on here, really. Because a lot of these, there's 3MB, but at least they're on TV. That's more than a lot of people on the roster can say. But the rest of these guys have really just kind of come in and really been dominant or been a prominent part of television. Mm-hmm. So, but the Shield has definitely kind of been head and shoulders above the rest, especially with their title reigns and Dean Ambrose's, which is still ongoing, but Rollins and Reigns having a very impressive tag team title reign. And just, I don't know, I think it gets people excited. Their entrance and, you know, from the time they come out to the time they leave, I think everybody's kind of engrossed in what they're doing, whether you love them or whether you hate them. I think everybody has probably feels strongly about them. Yeah. They kind of, I think, command that. So it's a rare quality, but it's something that has definitely led to them having a very impressive 2013.
And just the fact that when you didn't think they could get any bigger and better, it happened. I mean, the things they were doing, like you said, main eventing, Raws, having just the best match on the show every night, no matter who they're against. But the fact that they had segments or matches against the likes of The Rock, The Undertaker, John Cena, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, The Big Show at WrestleMania. It just kept getting bigger and bigger. And Kane and Daniel Bryan, Team Hell No, Kofi, all these people having amazing matches and it just kept getting bigger until they won their gold. And still, I mean, they're starting to have a little tensions, but they're still powerful, undefeated until June. Coming in November and being undefeated until June as a trio, that is impressive. Very impressive.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next category. We have the most extreme moment of the year. Our nominees are Ryback spears John Cena through the Extreme Rules set. John Cena gives Ryback the attitude adjustment through an ambulance. CM Punk gets revenge on Paul Heyman at Hell in a Cell. And finally, Sheamus goes through a ladder at Money in the Bank. And our winner is John Cena does the attitude adjustment to Ryback through an ambulance. And this was just something that I think was a moment that none of us can really say that we've seen happen. We've seen stuff on... I remember Cena and JBL had an I Quit match back in 2005 where there was like a semi-truck involved, and Cena actually took the smokestack off and hit JBL with it. Still one of my favorite matches.
I just watched that match 1 week ago.
Yeah, it's still one of my favorite matches. But so we've seen a lot of randomness. We've seen pieces of the set being used. And of course we've seen ambulance matches or things like that. But... and I've seen, battling on top of the ambulance, but I think this is honestly the first time we've seen somebody actually go through the roof of the ambulance. So, just something unexpected that, I mean, I didn't expect it anyway. When they're up there, I'm just like, oh, your typical battle on top of the ambulance that you usually see during one of these matches. But for someone to actually go through the roof of it was definitely cool. Yeah. So...
It was inventive.
From my boy John Cena.
Yeah, very cool. And in the day and age where it's a lot of people think, well, okay, it's PG, you won't see some of the extreme things we seen before, which is true, but to see things like that and everything we listed, even Ryback's spear through the set and stuff, it's cool to see that kind of stuff. Obviously, people like Jeff Hardy who would do whatever it takes to
do anything
put their body on the line, where an extreme moment was almost every night. It's, to still have great moments like that is just awesome.
Our next category is NXT Match of the Year. The nominees are Antonio Cesaro versus Sami Zayn, Sami Zayn versus Adrian Neville, Paige versus Natalya, and Adrian Neville versus Corey Graves. And the winners are Antonio Cesaro versus Sami Zayn. For me, this match could have won Best Match overall on any of the shows.
True.
I'm not a huge fan of Antonio, but that's more for his gimmick and his talking. But I have to admit, his in-ring work is amazing. And they put on a great match. It was high-flying, outside of the ring, several flips into pins and reversals and there was one where it looked like Zayn was gonna get power bombed onto the ground, and he did a flip and into a pin. It was
phenomenal,
insanely good.
Goes back to why he's the superstar of the year.
Yeah, and there were several moments when all of us were just like, did that really just happen? Like, we had to replay it.
We actually did. We went back and watched
Yeah.
some of the spots again just because, you know, they like defy gravity and logic and athletic ability. So
Like, I can't wait until Sami Zayn gets to the main roster so we can see more of this on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate and lucky enough to be able. I have a good chance to watch NXT on a weekly basis for the most part, and usually these guys come by and we try to catch up on and stuff. So the thing about NXT is there's so many match of the year candidates, but these ones just seem to stand out. And Sami Zayn, I mean, not trying to just say too much about him, but the fact that him and Cesaro matching Cesaro's strength with his high-flying ability, like, it was
agility.
a perfect... And the match was actually a 2 out of 3 falls match, which adds to the intensity. It was, tied at 1-1, and then Cesaro got the win on that one, I believe. And But great match. Great match!
And I just want to add, just the sheer strength of Cesaro being able to suplex him from the apron into the ring.
Yes.
That's just...
it's pretty much
incredible.
impossible,
Yeah.
but then there's this guy.
And the whole jumping around the turnbuckle to dive.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the match, you have to watch it. It is
You really just, you
truly
really just
amazing.
should.
You will see things you did not know possible, and
That's your homework for this week, viewers and listeners.
watch all of the matches we said.
But especially this one.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely takes the cake.
Yes.
Not, the rest were great matches too, and we've seen all of them probably at least a couple times each, but...
So now, got a decent amount, and we're gonna take a very short intermission. Just we got Frank the Tank, I think, wants to read some fan mail now.
Hello. You idiots forgot to mention that I predicted the winner of TLC, and everyone else was wrong, especially Joseph, you fatty. Yours truly, Frank the Tank.
So much hate.
Yeah.
And we let you on our show. I'm not sure why.
So, gonna segue into the biggest return of the year as we return back to our topic here.
That's a knee slapper. I see what
This
you did
is the biggest return of 2013. There were a lot of that was pretty good.
Oh
wasn't
gosh,
it?
that was funny.
We had a lot of people returning at different times. We had the nominees being Rob Van Dam, Goldust, Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, and Mark Henry. And the winner is Goldust. So, Goldust actually returned back in January at the Royal Rumble, and it was a big surprise. But the return here that we're mainly talking about is his return to full in-ring action, which he's in right now. This was actually, I thought, pretty difficult because you had Chris Jericho making a phenomenal surprise, completely secret, no one knew, return at Royal Rumble in the number 2 slot against Ziggler, who he had been feuding with throughout 2012. So it was a perfect thing. So I wanted to pick him, but Goldust just not just the return itself and how it came back, the family moment with his brother Cody and Dad Dusty, just the fact that he's on week in, week out, getting better and better, and now he's a tag team champion. It's just huge return. And then RVD, I think these guys can attest, when they announced Rob Van Dam's return at Money in the Bank, they announced it at Payback. I was in shock. I was so
his reaction was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I wish we could get it on film.
It was great.
Apparently it was good. I dropped my phone in salsa, so it was worth it. But RVD's was definitely very high up there. Part of it is that it was a short-range return. I'm sure he'll be back, but RVD was very close behind, I'd have to say.
I would agree. Well, and Goldust just really had an impressive year, and obviously he's set up to have a successful 2014 as well. But just, his brother, they're almost even a generation apart, because Goldust started wrestling when I was, I was little. I was maybe
Tyler
just
Black
a couple
was
years
only
old.
1.
Yeah. Actually, that's the year I was born. So there you have it. Goldust started wrestling the year I was born. Cody Rhodes is my age. So that kind of puts it into perspective, the age gap between these two brothers. And just the fact that he can get in the ring and not only hang in there with his brother, but perform on the same level as Cody and the guys in the ring who are, you know, much younger than him. Yeah. And I just think he really has proven his worth this year. And they've used him much more wisely than they've ever used him before. In years past, he's been like a sideshow or a part of the Attitude Era where he did some very edgy and questionable things in the mid to late 90s. But now I just feel like you actually see his talent and ability shining through rather than him being a sideshow in gold paint. So it's this run that he's had has been much more respectable, I think, than any of his other work that he's had in the business. So I'm very glad that he's finally been able to achieve what he deserves.
And the crowd's just been so behind him since he's returned.
Yeah.
But speaking of the crowd, that kind of leads into our next category. The next category is Crowd Chant of the Year. And the first one is Yes, Yes, Yes. We Are Awesome from the New Jersey crowd.
We are awesome! We are awesome!
Cody's mustache, which luckily he shaved that thing off.
Thank goodness.
And then Fandangoing. Anyways, the award goes to Fandangoing. Which I believe
that
also
could have
came
gone
from,
on for the rest of the podcast.
Which I believe the Fandangoing also came from the New Jersey crowd after WrestleMania too.
Yes.
So,
Mad props to them.
so for them, bravo crowd.
Definitely.
Crowd of the year, New
They
Jersey.
deserve a round of applause, definitely.
But I don't know, we chose this just because not only wrestling fans and wrestlers started doing it, everybody was doing
it actually became like an instant success on like an overnight success on social media.
Like there's a video of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders doing it.
Right. And I remember 3 of us were at Dreamwave like the following weekend, one of my indie wrestling shows. And I remember we just randomly started doing it, and this one guy got so offended, like saying he was gonna smash our phone or something. But it really was something that it's just fun. You just want it, you hear the music and you just can't help it. You gotta do it.
And the crowd totally got behind him because of that.
Yeah, it helped him a lot.
It pushed his career so much.
It didn't stick as much as like Daniel Bryan's did, but you still hear him doing it sometimes, and it definitely helped his career, I would say.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. And our next category is going to be Diva of the Year. Now, none of these ladies are Lita. I would just like to point that out. Lita's my girl. There will never be another one of her, but
I'm sure she would have been on the list if she were still wrestling.
I'm going to move on, or there will be tears. All right, the nominees are Natalya, Caitlyn, AJ Lee, Brie Bella, and Tamina Snuka. And the winner is AJ Lee.
Yay! Somebody here is happy about that one.
A little bit. I gotta say, I've kind of been up and down with AJ this year. She's crazy, and then she's not crazy, but mostly she's crazy.
And then she's been stealing your men.
And she steals all my men all the time. That was last year. But she stole she effectively stole every last one of my guys last year. But the one thing I cannot deny AJ Lee is her passion. I completely respect. She's always been a wrestling fan. That's something we can all relate to because, we know what that's like, or we wouldn't be sitting here doing a podcast talking about wrestling. But she is, she's very passionate. She grew up a fan, and this is something she's always wanted to do, and it's a dream that she now gets to live out every week. So for that's one thing that I connect with is passion, because I'm a passionate person by nature. So I'm glad that she's been successful. I'm glad that she can achieve her dreams. And of course, she's had a very dominant year as, the Divas champion for the second half of the year, and still reigning now. So.
Yeah, I'd definitely say her. Obviously, I just love her, but
We know.
her ring ability, she's very good on the mic, in my opinion, and as a character, she's good. Yeah, she's crazy, but she backs everything up she does. So
Yeah.
I agree. I'm very proud that she gets to, follow her dream. Of course, I just love her. So let's move on from there.
Has he mentioned that he loves her?
It's kind of just a shame to me that they don't have more like her.
Yeah.
Because she's great at what she does and great on the mic, but she doesn't have anyone to really cut a promo with or, like, have
Won't
a
be
good
ve-
match with,
Won't be
guess.
very long, and she will, because Paige is coming.
Oh boy.
Well, that's good because, like,
That's good.
yeah. All right, our next category is the yes moment of the year. And the nominees are The Shield wins gold at Extreme Rules. Dolph Ziggler cashes in on Alberto Del Rio. John Cena defeats The Rock at WrestleMania 29. And Championship Ascension ceremony. And the winner is Dolph Ziggler cashes in on Alberto Del Rio. Personally, I did not get to see this because I was off at camp.
Fail.
But I really wish I would have been there to see it because literally every pay-per-view we were like, is he going to cash in? He's going to cash in.
It wasn't.
He's going to cash in.
It wasn't every pay-per-view. It was every
night.
week.
Yeah.
Every
Like
week,
every time
night. It's
wrestling
like,
was on the TV.
the two things were Dolph Ziggler cashing in and Randy Orton turning heel, and it was both at like the same time.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we both wanted it to happen at
yeah.
the same time. But yeah, I'm just really disappointed I didn't get to see it. So your guys' thoughts?
well, it was also the night after WrestleMania. It was with the New Jersey crowd, and I think a lot of people thought that Ziggler was going to cash in at WrestleMania because he'd held it for that long. No one had cashed in at WrestleMania, so it just seemed like he's going to do it. Well, he didn't. He did it the night after with the best crowd in forever, really, and just the crowd reaction, like, so happy.
Yeah.
We want Ziggler throughout the whole thing. They knew it was coming, and then it did. His music hit, and it was the biggest pop of the year by far. And then he won. Of course, the title reign was not what it should have been, but that night was phenomenal.
Yes, it definitely was. And I remember us all like texting or instant messaging each other being like, oh my gosh, it's finally happening, because it was such an anticipated thing, and it was something that, as Frank the Tank kind of said, we were really almost every time wrestling was on, we were anticipating and hoping that he was going to cash in, because he was so over, and he was obviously someone we wanted to see hold the gold.
Yeah.
Anybody but Del Rio, in my opinion. But
Yeah, that's the best part. He cashed in and took the title off
Not
Del Rio.
anybody.
almost,
but
it could be worse, but
Yeah.
it couldn't be too much worse than Del
Yeah.
Rio, in my view.
Great Khali could win it.
Stop.
He already did.
He already has.
Okay, let's move on.
No more.
Santino?
Next is
Please, no.
our next category is feud of the year. There's been some heated rivalries of 2013. This is what we got. The nominees are AJ Lee versus Caitlyn, CM Punk versus The Undertaker, Dolph Ziggler versus Alberto Del Rio, Daniel Bryan versus The Authority and Randy Orton, and John Cena versus Daniel Bryan. And the winner is Daniel Bryan versus The Authority and Randy Orton. All these rivalries very heated, very personal, and a lot of back and forth. But Daniel Bryan and The Authority really made Daniel Bryan as a superstar that he is now, and it's still it's still ongoing. Really, it started even before SummerSlam, if you count him and Vince McMahon, kind of, Vince McMahon not liking not wanting him as the champ, and then Triple H and Stephanie carrying that on with, you know, the turning on him, the cash in, and then the fight, the chase for the title that he won twice. Of course, the reigns were altogether like a day or something, but still. And Randy Orton, I consider the Authority and Randy Orton different things because he's not the Authority. He just, you know, he's
their lackey.
Yeah, he's their guy. But Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton had a lot of good matches, a lot of main event pay-per-view matches, but the feud's still ongoing, and I think it could go all the way to WrestleMania and stuff, so...
Hope it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely something like a rivalry that you kind of got emotionally involved in. It was very much, and wrestling has always been about good versus evil, heel versus face, but this was such a pronounced, you know, Daniel Bryan, the good guy, versus the Authority or Randy Orton, depending on who you're talking about, and of course the Shield being in there too, kind of doing the Authority's bidding. But it was something that was just very you just got involved in. You like felt it, and when Bryan finally, you know, like triumphed over them, maybe on Raw he was the guy who was, you know, standing tall at the end. You were. You know, it was just exciting. You went to bed happy that night. Yeah. You know, and so it was just something that for the first time in a long time I really felt like they were doing something spectacular. You couldn't wait to see what was going to happen next. It wasn't ho hum, here comes Raw for 3 hours again. It was like, oh, is Bryan gonna finally exact his revenge on the, you know, it's like, you know, sticking it to your boss, you know, or somebody over you at your job or at, you know, where you're at. It's something everybody can kind of relate to, and kind of brings back memories of the Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon rivalry of the 90s. So I think people latched onto it, whether they were new fans or, you know, old school fans. I think people latched onto it for a lot of different reasons.
And our next category is Breakout Star of the Year. Big E Langston, Curtis Axel, Damian Sandow, Fandango, and Xavier Woods. And the winner is Big E Langston. We chose we chose him just because he's really done a lot throughout the year. I mean, he's been prominent on TV all year round, and then he started wrestling, and he just that delivers a finisher and really makes people look at him and they want to watch him just because he is a future world champion.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think he's really come into his own this year. I remember, I want to say it was last year at Survivor Series. It was one of the shows I was actually at in person. They showed, this is so random, but they showed something from NXT, and it showed that Cena was there, you know, like helping the guys, giving them advice, encouraging them to keep doing what they're doing. I remember Tyler Black, Seth Rollins was there. It showed him, you know, saying how cool this was that the superstars, you know, came down and were willing to, you know, give them tips and, you know, lend their advice. And but one of the things I remember seeing on that video was Big E Langston doing a max bench press of like 520 pounds or something like that. And he just did one rep, but it was phenomenal. Like I can max out at like maybe 110, you know? So just to see him do that was so cool. And then, you know, of course, when they brought him onto TV, they brought him in as a heel. And I honestly, when he first started, I wasn't into him. I didn't get it. I didn't buy into the Big E Langston thing. But as the year progressed, he has really come into his own. He really has. And not just because of his face turn and, you know, being the champion. The Intercontinental Champion, yes?
Yep.
Brain lapse. But not only those things, but just his character development. I feel like he has really become someone who you can get behind and believe in. Whether you like him or not, he's somebody that I think you can react to. You can have a feeling about when he's in the ring. So I think he was a good choice for this, you know, and he had some good competition here. I think we had some good nominees. All these guys, you know, Sandow winning the Money in the Bank, Fandango, you know, he beat Jericho at his debut match, as we talked about. Xavier Woods is just an incredible competitor that we were, you know, so excited to finally see come to the main roster. And Curtis Axel, you know, third generation
Yeah.
superstar, you know.
Lengthy reign with the Intercontinental
Yes,
title.
and very respectable reign with the
Put
title.
with Paul Heyman, which does
Yep.
a lot for you. So
Definitely. Oh, always. So, but that's my take on Big E Langston. I feel like he really has progressed a lot this year. It's been like watching a kid grow up, sort of. As funny as that sounds, it really has been. So, all right, let's move on to the best title win of the year. And our nominees are Dolph Ziggler wins the World Heavyweight Championship on Raw the night after WrestleMania. Curtis Axel wins the Intercontinental Championship at Payback. Randy Orton unifies the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship at TLC just a couple weeks ago. Daniel Bryan wins the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. And the Rhodes Brothers win the tag team titles on Raw. And our winner is Daniel Bryan wins the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. And this was, for me, this was one of the most anticipated matches that I had seen in a long time. Because it was Cena versus Bryan. And those are, you know, my two favorites that are on the roster right now. So just knowing that they were in a match together. Now, 10 years ago, I would have been dying on the inside that my favorite guy versus my favorite guy was happening at the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. I would have been devastated. But... Sorry, I would have been. But this year, I actually had people approach me saying, like, oh gosh, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm just going to enjoy it. You know, they're so different, such contrasting styles, and just two very, very different individuals inside the ring and out. And, of course, the promo leading up to, you know, which got one of our awards earlier. Just two very impassioned people who love the business and love what they do and are very good at what they do. Maybe in different ways, but both of them are very good at what they do because, you know, their passion is undeniable. So this was a big moment. And I remember, as you know, I knew Cena was wrestling on borrowed time because I knew he had an injury that he had to tend to. So I knew he was going to be gone for a while. And so as much as it kind of bothered me to see him lose the title, you know, Cena doesn't have to lose the title or have to have the title to be great to me, but just seeing him lose the title and knowing I wasn't going to see him for a while, that was hard. But I do remember just applauding and just, you know, feeling so proud of Bryan for, you know, finally reaching that status. He's been the world champion and one of the best wrestlers ever, but to see him win the WWE title was so very exciting, even though the night actually ended in tears.
Yeah. Well,
I think part of the reason why it was such a big title win was because of the big celebration they gave him afterwards. They had streamers. He walked up to the camera and thanked his parents.
Yeah.
They just really made it seem like he had won.
Yes.
well, that's because he did win.
Well, until
but-
somebody decided to
But
ruin that for him.
yeah, I just remember watching it over here, and he's been one of my favorites since I started watching again. But and one of my favorites of all time. And then just watching it after, I think by the time the match was over, I was on the floor in excitement, trying to get as close to the TV as possible. But
He
yeah,
wanted to give him a victory hug.
that'd be cool. But yeah, with like Joseph said, with the streamers and him just being so happy, it was just an awestruck moment, even though I was still at that point hoping Randy Orton wouldn't cash in, even though everyone kept telling me it was going to happen. But yeah, it was a great win.
I actually yelled at one of our friends that night. Legitimately, like, was really mad at him because he was right about Randy Orton cashing in. And apparently that gave me the right to blame the entire thing on him. So, sorry, Brandon.
Our next category is Superstar of the Year. And the nominees are Randy Orton, Daniel Bryan, John Cena, and CM Punk. And the winner is Daniel Bryan.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. You're the guy. You did one.
Sloppy Joe's always the guy. But like I was saying earlier, Daniel Bryan's might be my favorite of all time. And I'm really upset that they haven't given him the title for longer than 2 minutes or one night. But he'll eventually get there, and hopefully he'll win the Royal Rumble and get a push at WrestleMania or something like that, because he deserves it. He's a outstanding in-ring talking. I mean, you name it, he can do it probably. So
yeah,
I mean, he's the Dazzler.
Yeah, I have to disagree. I think Daniel Bryan is just a terrible asset. Like what he does, what he brings to the company, it's not best for business. I personally think that if he wins the Royal Rumble, I'll probably stop watching. They might as well just fire him now.
That's it.
This isn't even funny, dude.
I can't even.
You can't even joke like that.
No.
Okay, yeah. I actually.
We will punch you in the face.
Everything I just said is a completely lie. Yeah, Daniel Bryan is very, very deserving of Superstar of the Year. Not just because he's my favorite and the best wrestler in the business, is just the fact that the year he had was phenomenal. The crowd getting behind him, getting a good WrestleMania moment, not a 18-second loss. Getting title shots, main events. Having an amazing beard and getting shirt after shirt, whether they be bad or bad.
Or worse.
See what you did there. But it's a goat.
I actually didn't even.
Bad.
Yeah, that's good. But
High five.
That was good. It's like something you'd think of. Or something.
No,
he's
I
not
didn't
that
think
smart.
of it though.
True.
Okay, we gotta focus.
Yeah. So
Rude.
I mean, we've talked a lot about Daniel Bryan on the podcast in here. There's not all to say except that he's the best. He's the Superstar of the Year.
He's had a banner year. He really has. The crowd has gotten so much behind him that, of course, we started off with him and Team Hell No, and then have gone to, everybody just waiting for that moment when he finally wins the title. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just think of the guy that I watched so many matches of on the indie scene, not in person, but and seeing how far he's come, and it's such a well-deserved thing from such a passionate and just kind-hearted individual. The one time I got to meet him was nothing short of a blessing. It was just I was having one of the worst days of my life, honestly. I cried the entire drive there, and went to the bathroom, cleaned up, and then went to meet him. This is a true story. And I think I paid him $5. He signed an 8x10 and took a picture with me for $5. After already having been on the WWE roster once. This was in between his stints in the WWE. So to me, nobody's more deserving of, Superstar of the Year and the success that he has achieved this year.
Coolest gear of the year. And the nominees are the Usos, Kofi Kingston, Rob Van Dam, and The Shield. And the winner is the Usos.
Ooh!
So
yeah, we're cool.
we chose them just because their gear's unique, and then the face paint, I don't know, everything about it is just really cool. So
the bright colors and they're always coordinated, and their entrance too, I think, complements their cool gear, and their flashy in-ring style is very much complemented by their entrance. So
yeah, definitely. Just whatever colors they're wearing, it just always gets your attention. And I just thought this would be kind of a neat thing because this isn't something that I imagine WWE would do on the Slammies, and it's something you take for granted as ring gear, and you're like, that's pretty cool. So Kofi, RVD always got cool gear, but and the Shield's just unique because nobody else wrestles in vests and Under Armour and like boots and stuff. So it's just pretty cool. But the Usos, they're
No, nobody wrestles in boots.
Yeah, boots are so never worn.
yeah. But
Nobody wrestles in boots.
funniest line of the year: Dusty Rhodes,
And I'll be your huckleberry all night long.
Brock Lesnar,
Paul, say something stupid.
Edge,
And see, here's the thing. You're not a dictator, Hunter. You're just a...
and Booker T.
See, as managing manager of general, excuse me. As
That's
managing,
it. Nobody wants to hear this. Speak
as
it.
Poor Booker T just cannot speak. That was actually sad to listen to. But the winner of funniest line of the year goes to Edge. With his "You're not a dictator, Hunter. You're just a dick." It's very funny. It was hilarious. Edge doesn't come back often, but when he does, he always does something awesome. And that one, I always remembered that line from that night. I just thought it was very funny. And Brock Lesnar's wasn't on here so much for his comedy.
The fact that it was actually funny.
The fact that it was the most ridiculous, dumb thing I've heard in my life.
He's a Neanderthal. We have to give him a break.
But that one's got to go to Edge.
And I do love that we were able to get him on here, as rarely as we see him now, we were able to get him on here legitimately, because what he said was definitely worthy of, funny slang of the year. So, it's nice to have him on here, because I miss him.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think we all miss him.
No, I don't miss Edge at all.
Get out. All right. With all the drama going on, it's probably a good thing we're almost done, huh? We are going to move on to the most impactful finisher of the year. And the nominees are Big E Langston with the big ending, Roman Reigns with the spear, AJ Lee with the Black Widow, and Bray Wyatt with Sister Abigail. And our winner of most impactful finisher of the year is Roman Reigns with the spear. And this is something that I actually said once Edge is gone. This is kind of funny because we were just talking about him. I kind of felt like once Edge was gone, the only one who should use the spear is Christian. Mm-hmm. Because of the connection that they had. And that's actually something we talked about in our last episode. So if you haven't given that a listen, make sure you check it out.
Yeah.
Probably the best episode we've done, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of cool stuff in there.
And it's Christmas.
Yay! Okay. But seeing Roman Reigns do the spear, it's very, I don't know, I hate to say impactful, but it really is. It's just something that he kind of hits out of nowhere, and
I thought that was the RKO.
RKO out of nowhere!
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
I'd say, there hasn't been a spear with like so much power since like Goldberg. It's just intense, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But the Black Widow is pretty good. I would not mind being put in the Black Widow by AJ. That would be okay.
Okay, we're supposed to talk
Let's
about
move
winners
on.
here. When Roman Reigns speared CM Punk was going backstage to rescue Daniel Bryan from the Wyatt family, and it literally came out of nowhere. We didn't see them at all. We didn't hear anything from the commentators about them, and that spear was probably one of the best of the year, in my opinion. And it was just
Edge would be
awesome.
proud.
Yeah. It's very built up. They have built him doing up the spear a lot.
Mm-hmm. The next category is Match of the Year. And the nominees are John Cena versus CM Punk on Raw, CM Punk versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 29, World Heavyweight Championship Money in the Bank ladder match, Money in the Bank, The Shield versus Team Hell No and The Undertaker on Raw, Seth Rollins versus Daniel Bryan, Raw. And Rob Van Dam versus Chris Jericho, Raw. And the winners are Seth Rollins versus Daniel Bryan. For this one, we had a really rough time.
You don't even know.
That's an understatement.
We were flipping coins. We were
Rolling
We were
dice.
raising our hands and closing our eyes and voting.
Yeah.
This was
and
a challenge choosing one.
Couldn't choose one. We even had a hard time breaking it down just to these 6. But we ended up choosing this one because features 2 of our favorite guys, and the in-ring work was incredible. Rollins' sells are as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Countless reversals, and it was just a really good match.
And I mean, the fact that this had to be a blast for them. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they've wrestled so many times before, and like to get to bring kind of the stuff they did in the Indies and ROH, just to like, oh my gosh, it had to have been so fun just to show the WWE universe like,
What they can
yeah, this
do.
is what we can do. And I remember it was a poll. It was a fan poll to vote in which member of the Shield was going to face Daniel Bryan, and we're just like, no, Seth Rollins, please, because it would just. I mean, it'd be great regardless, but that was just something we really wanted to see, and everyone got to see it, and it was very, very positively acclaimed by fans and people. Like, I remember hearing a lot of good things, and like you said, this was really hard to pick, but just the wrestling and technical ability and just amazing spots in the match was just so good.
So again, if you find yourself with nothing to do, you should definitely look up this match on YouTube as well.
Or even if you have
didn't
things to
see
do.
it, or if maybe you don't remember seeing it, this is something you will definitely not be disappointed in. I know it's one that we've watched. You know, we've chosen to watch again because it really was just phenomenal. And I think this is a match that a lot of people maybe had forgotten about. Because when you think match of the year, a lot of times you think a pay-per-view match of some sort. And this was something that was just on a Raw. I believe it was in May.
Yeah, that's about right.
And it was just something that, again, you know, like you were saying, was a poll. But just the fact that these two ended up in the ring together, I think we all knew before the match even started that it was going to be something special. And it definitely was, top to bottom, was a very entertaining match that I think people are hopefully going to be talking about for a long time. I mean, I'd like to think that this one hasn't gone forgotten, but it was kind of a more obscure match, you know. Definitely wasn't a pay-per-view. It was just kind of there.
Yeah.
No rivalry attached to it. It just was...
Yeah.
And hopefully there will be more to come between those two.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I definitely like to think that we will see more from those two together. So yeah, there was the Ringside Radio 2013 End of the Year Awards, kind of thrown together, but you know, a lot of work goes into doing all that, and we probably left out some things that you're like, wait, what? So let us know, give us your thoughts, your opinions, and we'll try and cover it on later episodes. Hopefully your fan mail will be better than Frankie's here, who's just, you know, we let this guy on our show, he calls this guy fat, but no, I'm sure he'll be back. So thanks for joining us.
Ungrateful little.
Yeah, thanks for joining us again for our awards. Hopefully we'll do this again next year and actually have you guys vote on stuff, but we kind of had to do that, and it was hard, especially match of the year. But
It was very tedious.
yeah, so thanks for watching. Be sure to catch us on the next one around Royal Rumble, which we are pumped for, of course. I am Grim Chorizo.
I'm Sloppy Joe.
I'm Katrina Cena.
And I'm Frank the Tank.
Thank you for watching Ringside Radio.
We'll see you in a few weeks.
You've been listening to Ringside Radio. Be sure to like and subscribe, and send any of your questions and comments to grimchorizo@gmail.com.